Okay, and we are now live.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, and I just found the YouTube.
All right, cool.
Okay.
And
Somebody's
I will,
echoing.
No,
Yes,
I
I
just
can
turned it
hear.
off. That was me. Sorry.
It's okay. And I'm going to let everybody just go down through and introduce themselves and their channel and what you do on your channel.
Awesome.
Very cool.
And we can start with whoever wants to start.
Oh, okay.
Well, my name is Craig with Reviews for You. Yeah. I'm
That's
Adris. I'm just a random ass. Everybody knows me that way.
I am Jesse. I've got a channel called Exaggeration Nation, and all I do is get on there and act a fool. Talk about whatever, talk about whatever's on my mind. And let me see. I did my top 5 celebrity man crushes, and 90s nostalgia. That's pretty much as far as I've gone so far.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm Stieg, and I don't have any channel. I just hang out in the chats, really, and say R-rated stuff. But I promised Bonnie I'd be PG-13 today, so I'm going to try and do that. And
I promise you, Stig, if it starts to go R-rated, you have free reign to go that way.
Okay,
I
cool.
will just age restrict it like I did the last 2 videos.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, and I'm coming to you all from Norway.
Oh, wow.
Norway.
What
Yeah.
part?
Christiansen.
Okay,
Just
my
there.
wife and I spent some time in Oslo and just fell in love with it.
I'm near the middle where Norway kind of narrows at the
Oh,
coast.
okay. Okay.
So I'm south of Trondheim, near the
Oh,
Atlantic.
Trondheim. I wanted to
Yeah.
see Trondheim. It's the original capital of Norway.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it was the last stand of Norse paganism before Christianity put the sword to everyone if they didn't convert.
Yeah, the final battle was up there.
Yep.
Yeah, our chat's going crazy already. D Pensec says, "Oh man, PG-13, really?" And Sebastian says, "Stig and the used Tauntaun dealer."
Yeah, they're never gonna let me forget about that.
No. Okay, so really quick, if you are new to the channel, please hit subscribe and hit the bell for more content. I do videos in the morning with gaming, and at night we do these live streams with guests on the show. Please hit the like, and you can chat away in the chat and we'll read it. And no promises this will stay PG-13. It'll probably hit R before the night's out.
There you go. As it gets later, it gets darker. Remember that.
Yes.
I have the chat open so I can see who of them, slanders me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna take names.
I've got a list.
Yeah. Sebastian is on notice already.
So should I introduce myself, or are we just gonna plow right on?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just kind of waiting for everyone to finish, but I was like, okay, so I'm Roger, the Iron Wolf 1970. You can find me on Twitter, Roger Larson 1970, or you can find me on YouTube in a completely different dimension of meditation, healing, and whatnot, energy work, on Quentin Lars, which is my YouTube channel that you can see here. On Twitter, I'm a little bit different. I geek out my Star Wars buddies. I come up with Star Wars storylines and alternate, I guess, alternate versions of the current Star Wars movies that are doing so well with the fans. So I do that for fun, and I draw avatars for my buddies on Twitter. So
very cool.
Also subscribe to each other and to the channels for everybody in the panel tonight. They're all great. They all have great content. And yes, D Pensec, you are right. He says, Bonnie, you're truly exhibiting your title of the Rebel Alliance publicity branding manager. So Craig from Reviews for You does Rebel Alliance on Monday and Thursday nights. And I usually go on his channel. He has not been streaming lately. So, but when he starts streaming again Monday and Thursdays, I will not do live streams at night because I'll be on his channel. But yeah, I definitely put that out there because Craig is the reason that I am doing live streams now. So I give him all that credit.
He'll start up again next time he goes to McDonald's. We'll hear from him in the drive-thru.
Yep.
Oof.
And D. Carey says Bonnie has brought the Rebel Alliance and the Senate together. Yes, I have done that. I have had members of the Senate on my show the last couple of times I've had the chance. I've had Drunk 3PO. I've had Sith.
Now you got me.
Now I've got you, Roger.
She's collecting us. My God.
I'm working on it.
Didn't you have Abu Nas too?
Yes, I've had Abu Nas on my channel.
Oh,
As a matter of
wow.
fact, I was talking to him tonight, and we're working on maybe doing a show next week, if possible, together again. So, yes, definitely.
It's turning into a cult, you know.
I know,
I'm just.
Ooh, that sounds ominous.
but
Yeah, it does.
it's a good cult. It's a good cult.
The cult
I don't
is
know.
female.
Fuck, I quit then.
No.
I got
I'm
HIV
kidding.
from the
Oh, Jesus, Stig, you got to bring that one up tonight.
No,
Oh,
just-
Lord. I
I'm
can't live that down.
still peeved about it.
So my phone, I cannot type with my phone because my letters are so tiny and my fingers are so big. When I type, I always spell things wrong. So one day in Hangouts, I was typing hi to Stig and it came out HIV Stig.
Oh, no.
So I
Yeah.
gave Stig HIVs with just the misspelt word. And if that's not bad enough, I completely changed Craig's name from Craig to Krieg.
Oof.
What's
Is
I
it
have-
contagious?
The V
I have
is
a more-
somewhere near the other keys.
I have a more detailed version of that story, Bonnie.
Oh, yeah, you can go ahead and do that one, Stig.
I came into the chat, Google chat, one morning, bit tired but happy. I walk in and I say hi. Then my pants drop,
Whoops.
and well, it was pleasant at first. Then it started to burn, and then Bonnie yells, "HIV, Stig!" And I'm like, "Oh shit, she gave it to me. Can't get it off." That's what happened. And then
At the drop
someone,
of a pants?
yeah, and then someone learned about it, and then it spread, literally.
Oof.
Yeah, it was a really nasty prank, but I'll take it as a prank though. I'm sporty that way.
And it gets better because then Steph steps in with her little witch spells.
Yeah, she said something occult, really. I guess it was, to make sure the curse stuck on me. And it did.
Yeah. We have a good time in the off screen chat a lot.
So, what are we talking about tonight?
So for those that are new, we have no topics. We just talk about whatever anybody wants to talk about. And we hit pretty much every topic possible. So, yeah. And I'm going to have Teletubby on the show one night, too. I've been talking to him, working out something to bring him on the show. So,
Teletubby.
yeah, he's like a gamer that is in the chat a lot on a lot of the Senate shows.
So, what's the main interest for the group? Is it movies? Is it games?
Hating Kathleen Kennedy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
okay,
Hating
well,
Kathleen
let me
Kennedy.
put that at the top of the list. Hating Kathleen Kennedy. That's
Ryan
an easy
Johnson
one,
after
though. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got several memes for him on Twitter. So, I've got one for Kathleen. She gets a token meme.
You know how they say you can always talk about the weather with anybody? It's like the universal subject. This is our weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I posted one up today, and it's actually been getting a lot of hits. And it's actually a direct quote from Ryan Johnson talking on what was it? Some sort of like panel, and he's talking about Star Wars. Like he wanted the opera. He wanted it to be fun. You know, that was the most annoying thing, first off. And he was focusing on how fun it was. And then he got into, it's got the opera, you know, it's got the action, and you know, and then but the topping of it all was that he wanted to encourage people to go into their backyards and play with their spaceship toys. Oh, here it is. So it's like we were trying to make it feel like a Star Wars movie, and that means you have the intensity and the opera, but it also means that it makes you come out of the theater wanting to run in your backyard, grab your spaceship toys, and make them fly around. And that's a key ingredient to it. And he actually said this. It's the Last Jedi U.S. press conference. You can actually, there's actually 2 versions of it on YouTube. And it's funny because at the end of it, he looks to everybody in the panel, like, right, guys? You know, like, please back me up. I just stuck myself out on the limb here, you know. And everyone's just looking at him going, yeah, okay, plastic smile. But no one really backed him up.
All the spaceships were out of fuel anyway.
He was out of fuel. He ran out of gas on stage, and everyone saw it. It was just like, ooh, wow, they just left him hanging.
As a kid, I was doing that quite a lot, actually. But as a kid, we also in the 80s, we didn't have such a steaming pile of shit as our source material for, you know, whatever story we wanted to make up in our playtime.
What was the budget on Last Jedi?
Oh God, it was a lot. I can't remember exactly.
Someone quoted it to me. Oh, $317 million. $317 million to get hung out to dry.
That kid at the end of The Last Jedi was Ryan Johnson's narcissistic representation of himself as a kid playing with toys, and
Pretty
you know
much.
that would have worked, except he was probably that kid who came over and like ruined the playtime with. But this guy came along and he blew up everything.
Yeah,
End.
pretty much. I mean, Ryan Johnson was the kid at Christmas that got crappy Christmas toys and everyone else got really cool ones. So he went around and he smashed everyone else's Christmas toys and said, "Oh, sorry to disappoint you."
That
was The Last Jedi.
He probably got beaten with that broom, actually.
Oh my God. You know.
That would explain a lot.
Well, you know, you got the alcoholic father that pushes the kid away when he's, "Hey, Dad, can you help me with my homework?" "Go away! I'm drinking my alcohol." Only in this case, it was green milk.
Yeah.
You know, Jedi training.
Well, the whole story, according to Ryan Johnson, was his way of dealing with his father issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I'm like, I paid $10 for his therapy. I want my money back.
Yep, because that's not what Star Wars is about.
No, Star Wars. I mean, you got to just go back and listen to anything that George Lucas has ever said about Star Wars. You know, I remember when I was about 9 or 10, I opened up a book about Star Wars and where it was coming from, and I saw stuff that I had no clue. This stuff was mystery to me. It was like Zen Buddhism. I'm like, you know, I'd never heard of that before. And when I saw Empire Strikes Back, the thing that struck me the most was the discussion that Yoda was having with Luke about the Force, about how it connects everything. You know, life creates it. You know, and that blew me away. You know, my dad loved the snow battle. I loved the scenes on Dagobah. I'm like, more. Tell me more, please. You know.
Yep.
And
snow battle was filmed not too far from where I live.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's right. It was filmed in Norway.
Yeah.
And then
awesome.
And then George Lucas turned it into a waste product of bacteria, basically. But you know, I could let that slide simply because the point
You're talking about the prequels?
Yes. Not everybody could be a Jedi even in the prequels. That was still a special, significant position you had to be in, having the midichlorian count. to get to where you needed to go. And
Yeah.
that, you know, that went out the window in the sequel trilogy without explanation.
See, I would have had it more of like a consciousness thing, because Luke was always looking around outside of him, and his uncle and his aunt were always like nose to the ground. You know, we're dirt farmers. You know, it's like that kind of mentality. So the closer you are to that kind of mundane, everyday, factory level mentality, you're going to be shut off from the eyes are looking around, and you know, you're looking to the stars and you're looking to the horizon. That means that you're more connected to the force than everybody else is, because you know intuitively or instinctively that something bigger is happening outside of your own little tiny bubble of a world. You know, and that made more sense to me. And when George introduced the midichlorians, I'm like, oh, he killed it. You know, so of course I had to draw a cartoon for it. You know, it's made. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I guess he was trying to do something with the bloodlines, really. That's some bloodlines are more, you know, susceptible to being force sensitive.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because the life creates the force, and that was what Yoda said in Empire.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, George Lucas didn't write the script for Empire. It was a woman. She wrote the first draft, and then Lawrence Kasdan came in and cleaned up everything that George didn't like about it. And but yeah, you got that bit about the forest, and I was like, that makes sense. I don't need anything else. You know, that explained it.
Once you start explaining it, the whole mystery goes away.
Yeah, it's no longer
it's no longer magic, it's science.
Yeah. Well, it's no longer interesting. I mean, science can be interesting, but when you start to geek out on your own geek stuff, that's you know, it's like, oh God, okay, you lost me. So yeah, it's
It also
that's why Empire is so good for me. It stands out as probably the best Star Wars movie for me personally.
It also inevitably depends on your writing skill. Theoretically, you should be able to make any subject in any IP worthy of reading or listening to. But that being said, I would like to apply the same thing to Palpatine. In the original trilogy, he was just a mystery. He was nothing. He was old and he was nasty and he was bad and he was evil, and that's all you needed to know. But George did a pretty successful expose into at least the latter half of his life.
Yeah, I thought the one conversation that Palpatine had with Anakin, and it was at that opera that they were sitting at. I thought that was the single most best scene in all three of the prequels put together. Just the way he was manipulating Anakin about the force ability of Darth Plagueis and his ability to manipulate the force. I won't say midichlorians, but his ability to manipulate the force to create life and to extend life in the ones that he loved. Although I can't see a Sith Lord loving anyone enough to extend their life. But
and I've seen Ian McDiarmid say twice now he loved doing that scene. That's his favorite scene that he's ever done.
You know, speaking of Palpatine, George Lucas actually had to make some sort of a background for him, because when Kenobi speaks to Luke about, you know, the old Jedis and stuff, he says he was a Jedi Knight before the Empire. And then we have an Emperor, so we have to show how the Empire happens, because everything was good before that happened.
Yeah. My buddies and I have had discussions about this, and I just feel like I agree with, I think it was my friend Sith, that he mentioned that Obi-Wan, it should have been Obi-Wan's story all along, because it's like, we already know that Anakin is Darth Vader. There's no surprise. And that could have been a backstory, you know, for the prequels. Like, oh, okay, this is happening while Obi-Wan is going through his training. And Sith was telling me that Obi-Wan was actually he almost didn't make it being a Jedi. And I think that would have been interesting to see, you know, it's like it was his hard work, his determination, that got him in the Jedi robes and, got him to be mentored by Qui-Gon. So I think, I have to agree with him on that. It's like that would have been a far more interesting story, and then just have the Anakin thing just kind of play along behind the scenes, because ultimately it was Obi-Wan's failure to train Anakin properly that kind of opened the door for Anakin to be manipulated by Palpatine. Not to mention, Anakin should have been older when they found him, because in Star Wars, Obi-Wan was talking about, when I met your father, he was already a brilliant star pilot. He was a cunning warrior. It's like, well, I look at a kid, I'm like, okay, he's not gonna, he's not gonna do anything. What's he gonna do? It's like, what kind of strategies and tactics does he have up his little sleeve? At 8 years old. So that's it.
His N1 stop. His N1 starfighter just happened to burn out on him, and he just happened to use the Force and hit a button on the dash, and he just happened to blow it up.
So, not to change the subject here, but Mary said something funny in the chat. She says, I can make any subject interesting. For example, I opened up a can of brand pork and beans earlier. There was a giant gloopy lump in the middle, and I asked myself, I really prepared to eat that. So I gave it to an ant colony outside. Now I'm their queen. All hail Queen Mary, or I shall send my army of ants to imprison you. So yeah, she can make things very interesting.
So
Am I the only one that just went completely over my head?
that antagonist in the chat.
Oh God.
Oh.
Okay, everybody, ante up.
Dad jokes.
Yeah. Couldn't help myself.
All right.
Who's
got a better one? Topic?
Sith is in the chat, so I'm
Yes,
trying to see
he
if
is.
he wants to come on the show. Sith, would you like to join us?
Get over here!
Join us.
Who's in the chat?
Sith
Sith
Kryptonite.
Or
He says something went over Roger's head. Is it water wet?
is water wet?
Wow.
Oh my God, he stole that from the last Boy Scout.
That's funny.
Is he saying yes or? Oh, okay, sure. Give me a minute.
Be right
He's
back.
got to do his nails.
Oh Lord.
His Sith talons. Oh my God. So yeah. Anybody else have anything to say about the prequels?
I actually like the prequels. I think I'm one of the crazy ones that did.
What did you like about it?
I think the reason that I liked it is because it gave a more entailed backstory on Anakin, which is why I loved him to begin with, is the whole thing with Anakin. I loved the idea of finding out how Luke's father became Darth Vader, and it just kind of filled all of that stuff in I was trying to figure out and trying to understand. It was kind of cool for me because you get to understand why he went from being such a great Jedi to being such an evil Sith Lord.
Right.
And I had respect for that. And I think that's what drew me into the prequels.
I was looking forward to seeing that, but I just felt the delivery was very watered down. I mean, it's just like you have Darth Vader, right? He's a commanding presence. He walks into a room, everybody shrivels. He doesn't have to even say a word. He just stands there and he looks at you. And when you look at little Anakin, he'd be bopping around going, "Oh, that's a wizard," There's no thread of Vader. Like, even as a kid, he should have been, hands on his hips, arms folded, just staring at people going, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? That's stupid." He should have already had insights that took him way beyond he should have been older mentally and emotionally than he was physically. And I think that would have been a great weakness for him to have difficulty with, especially later on when he's dealing with the Jedi Council. And the Jedi Council is like, "Well, young Anakin, we're going to do it this way." And Anakin's going, well, that's ridiculous. That's a complete waste of time, and it's inefficient, and it's going to get you nowhere. And I can already see in the you know, like he can see in the future, it's like, that's not going to work.
Mhm.
It's like, well, you're young, Anakin, and we understand your impatience, but this is something that you're going to have to learn how to deal with. And I could see that being a breaking point for Anakin, going, oh, these guys are just a bunch of old guys sitting around, and they haven't gotten out of these seats in like centuries, you know, that kind of mentality. And then Palpatine going, Anakin, you have so many wonderful ideas. Why don't you come with me and be my advisor? You know, and that could have been the real shift there. And then the Jedi Council actually being happy to get rid of Anakin rather than being afraid of losing him. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, take him off our hands, please.
Yeah.
Because he's like nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I saw it going in my head.
Yeah, I like I said, I think my biggest thing for liking him was the whole backstory on Anakin becoming Darth Vader.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's it could have been told a lot better, but that's what drew me into it. Because I
Yeah,
was
that's what
always
happens
wondering
when
how it
George
happened.
Lucas writes.
Exactly, it draws
He's got
you
great
in.
ideas.
Yes.
You know, he's got great ideas. He's brilliant. He's a genius at being a visionary. But, you know, everybody's got a role. Like, you know, you have your director of photography, you've got your script writer, you've got your director, you know,
Yeah.
and so everyone's got something that they have to offer. So I'm talking a lot, and I'm going to let someone else talk for a while.
I like the prequels for this reason, and it's kind of silly, really. The anticipation of knowing that they were coming in 1997 and earlier, you know, it made me think back on every single thing that was touched upon in both the novels of the original trilogy and the films that was spoken of in past tense. Just wanting to see what was already established had already happened. Plus, little things like wonder why Yoda was always considered a master. You know, you got to find out. And I can't say it was disappointing. I can't say those moments were disappointing, especially
the jumping Muppet.
Yeah, I call him Kung Fu Booger. But
Kung Fu Kermit.
Yoda versus the Emperor, which a lot of people forget Steven Spielberg choreographed that fight on the storyboards at Lucas's invitation. I still will go back and watch that. The exchange was fantastic.
I liked everything up until they got the lightsabers out. I think it should have been a force battle and not lightsabers. You know, them just throwing each other around and Yoda absorbing the lightning and then sending it back to Palpatine. And I think they could have gone a lot further with the force abilities. It's like, oh, okay, let's go to lightsabers. Oh, well, we've seen that before. You know, let's see something new. These guys are masters. You know.
Really,
they did chuck Senate seats at each other. That's pretty.
Really,
that was Palpatine, and that was actually parodied really well in what was it? Robot Chicken with the
I love that.
Palpatine's phone call.
Guys, really quick, hold on. Damajanai, I need your email, and then I can send you an invite. We got Damajanai in the chat, so I want to send him an invite.
Awesome.
Did you guys notice the big editing mistake at the end of Revenge of the Sith?
Which one? Sorry.
Yeah. There's a big one. Kenobi and Yoda goes to the Jedi Temple and finds everyone dead. And then they see the holocron or the holovid or whatever of, Palpatine talking to Anakin.
Yeah.
And then Kenobi says, "Send me to kill the Emperor." After that, you get the Senate scene where Palpatine announces that he's an emperor. So Kenobi didn't know about any empire when he said that.
Right.
That hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Chronologically, it didn't match.
Yeah, someone I was talking to said, "Why not send that video to the Senate?" It's like, to show, hey, it's not us. It's this, psychotic bastard that's killing everyone, and he's following the orders of Palpatine.
The one thing about that video that killed me where Obi-Wan sees Anakin slaughter the younglings is like Obi-Wan should have cried or something.
He's not allowed to show emotions because he's a Jedi.
Oh my God, it's Sith. He snuck in.
I could easily believe that at that time Obi-Wan didn't want to show any signs of breaking in front of Yoda because Yoda would have just dismissed him and said, "Go away, you can't do this. You're not strong
Well, Yoda
enough."
would have sensed it anyway.
Yeah.
Even if he was
I
holding
just
it
feel
in.
like I didn't feel enough reaction from Obi-Wan. Like I didn't feel the gravity of him seeing that. Like I didn't see enough shock in him.
You know what I liked? I liked the live action cam of Sith Lord Anakin cutting down people.
Yeah.
You know, I thought the coverage was just excellent.
Dude, that scene where he's walking and he's got the Sith eyes and he's got the clone troopers behind him and he's marching on the Jedi Temple.
That was good.
So good.
Yeah.
And wasn't that copied in Last Jedi? Didn't they copy that scene with Kylo Ren marching in with his little stormtroopers?
I don't remember.
Into the cave?
Yeah, it happens on the planet Crate.
Yeah.
Kylo has 0 threat range, so the whole
Yeah.
scene was impotent, really.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of wasted. The only thing threatening was like the red that they were walking on from the soul. That was
Yeah.
threatening.
Oh, it's Salt. Oh, thanks for letting us know it's not Hoth.
It was cocaine for the
That'd be
general.
hilarious if they all just get high.
And that's why Gareth Edwards showed up.
That's
The
not salt.
The whole thing for me is Kylo is not even the least bit intimidating. I remember when I watched the original Star Wars from the OT, man, when Vader showed up and he had Leia in front of him, I was freaking out. I was like curling up in my dad's lap being like, man, what's he going to do to her, Dad? I was scared for her. But, at the same time, you had to respect her because it's like she showed no fear, even though you could tell she was scared to death.
That's how much of a badass she was.
I mean, it's like he has more threat in him than Kylo has in a pinky nail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bad. That's real bad.
My favorite scene is just Vader getting onto that Corellian blockade runner and just putting his hands on his hips and looking at all the dead bodies and going, yep, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead. Okay, moving on. He's so calm. It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, yelling.
Badass.
You need to tell Disney that yelling doesn't equal intimidation. And I really thought with Kylo, the fact that I thought it was like on purpose, the fact that like he was getting his ass kicked a lot and he was like throwing tantrums and like he didn't really have it together and he lost in Force Awakens and arguably again in Episode 8. I thought that they were gonna have it where we find out maybe Kylo is not really a villain or he comes back to the light, and then we find out Rey, who from the perspective of her enemies has to be extremely intimidating, and then she was going to be the one to fall to the dark side.
Is this where I talk about my Episode 9 fix, Sith?
I put it this way when I compare like Kylo to Vader. Look at the fan reaction. Vader has always been scary, period. He's a scary villain. Kylo fans, the few that he genuinely has, are drawing fucking erotic role play fan art of him. They admire him. They think he's sexy.
Oh, God.
Do they think any of this shit of Vader? No.
Ray, rub my ears.
The
I'm
whole
tasting my
problem,
lunch.
the whole problem is that he's constantly being beaten by the underdog, making him the underdog, really.
Yeah,
And that,
if
you know,
if he
removes
loses again,
his-
and if he
Well,
loses again in
here's
Episode
the
9,
problem.
it's like meh.
He's defeating himself because he's losing control.
Yeah.
Darth Maul never lost control. Palpatine never lost control. Vader never lost control. Dooku never lost control. And he was weak. He was kind of a lame character, but he never lost control. Kylo loses control just as much as, what's his name? The ginger guy. General Ginger. Hux. Hux is just like, they're both loose cannons. And it's like, there's no power there. There's no threat. There's no intimidation.
It's immaturity.
And my wife is eating all the cookies. So,
I think we have
it's
someone
just-
new in the stream.
uh-oh.
Yes.
A new fish.
Hello.
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 How you doing?
Oh my God, it sounds like the Emperor.
Good. Good.
Say it. Say it. Go ahead. Say it. I am the Senate.
Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Rise. Oh my God, I'm getting flashbacks.
So
That was
what
actually
I
a good
missed?
scene, though.
Oh, I love that scene. That was actually one of my favorite scenes in the Revenge of the Sith. And speaking of which, it's funny you guys just kind of talk about the prequels a little bit. I literally just finished doing a video talking about Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars, but the 2003 animated version. And I just, just felt like talking about something that I like. And it's really such a shame that, that was actually one of the first things they got put on the chopping block. Once they went the CGI, that was actually really a George Lucas thing, but it wasn't a Disney thing. But I still enjoyed the little shorts that they made for it because it went directly into Revenge of the Sith. Like they actually ended the series with them, what Mace Windu saying that the Chancellor's been kidnapped by Grievous, and I really enjoyed that. So
Yeah, you're talking about the animated one where
yeah, the one
the last shot is them zooming out in space, which is the opposite of the first shot of Revenge of the Sith, where they zoom in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The Clone Wars has my personal favorite lightsaber fight of all time in it, and subsequently, that's the one time Maul broke. Maul did break once when he got his ass kicked by Darth Sidious.
Oh yeah.
Have
Oh,
mercy,
okay. You're talking about the
please.
animated. My mind's still in the movies, in the prequels.
Want to hear something funny? Lord Miller, that Kathleen Kennedy fired, just won a Golden Globe.
Yeah, I was reading about that. That was funny.
Yeah,
Evidently, Kathleen's going to get a call from Bob Iger. That's what I read.
The trilogy that Craig calls the D&D trilogy, those guys?
Yeah.
They got fired?
No.
Yeah. They got fired from Solo because of creative differences.
No, that's not those people I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Oh,
Are you
okay.
thinking of
Continue.
David Benioff and Weiss from Game of Thrones?
Oh, that D&D. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, man, if they got fired, I'm fucking done.
No.
Yeah, I'm out. That's
No, they
about
wouldn't
all that
fire
stuff
them.
for me to look forward to.
Yeah, them and Jon Favreau. I think those two are going to really bring Star Wars back to a point where Star Wars is palatable to the real fans of Star Wars.
I don't know. I mean, they're still still serving soup from a bowl that has been pissed in.
Oh, we're
Well,
back
it's
to
a new
soup.
role. It's a new trilogy.
Yeah, it's still in the new canon.
I will say this though, as long as Rian Johnson has nothing to do with anything else, I'm all good with whatever. I'm good with somebody else getting a hand on it and trying something different.
Isn't there a rumor going around that Rian Johnson's trilogy is still in the works, but it's going to end up on Disney Plus?
Yeah, I heard about that. It was on 17 magazine or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We talked about that the other night. It's direct to digital usually equals steaming pile of shit.
Yep.
Or in this case, a streaming pile.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm getting flashbacks to Jurassic Park, guys.
I mean,
Since The Last Jedi is canon, that means every space battle where someone doesn't hyperspace through an enemy won't make sense.
D. Pensek, he did say no, but then he contradicted himself and said yes at the end of the interview that it was.
Wow.
Do you think
Sounds like a date from Harvey Weinstein. No,
Yeah,
yes, no,
said-
yes, no.
Yeah, he said something about no, it wasn't because they were doing the theater films, but then he said, but then they were going to have it on the stream. So, but not before the theater film. So, yeah, it's going on. It's just, I don't know. I don't know
I
if they
think
even
you're
know
saying
what
that the trilogy is going to live on there after it goes in theaters, is what you're trying to say.
Disney
Yeah.
should have a color coding for their streaming service and they'll just put Ryan Johnson stuff on the yellow stream.
Here's my whole thing. When that came out, when Lethal Lightning said it, I couldn't stop laughing. And the first thing that I got in my head was Disney streaming, dead before it starts. Thank you, Ryan Johnson. Yeah, he's going to kill it just like he killed the Star Wars group.
Yeah.
It's done for.
I'm sure as hell not gonna pay for a streaming service too.
Well, that's the thing too.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying it's like everybody's doing streaming now. I'm like, I'm not spending like $10 here, $10 there, $10 there. I'm like, the only one I'm spending on is Netflix. And the only reason I did Netflix is because of Marvel, the Daredevil, and now that's gone. So it's like, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm not, because of the fact that Disney had a hand in them, canceling Daredevil and everything. That was just them losing my money anyway. So I wasn't going to give it to them in the first place, but that made it even worse. So
Well, they got Fox now, don't they?
They do have Fox but I don't know. Matter of fact, I don't think it was completely sealed yet, but they are definitely probably going to get it. Which I was hoping that they would have shut it down because they own too much.
Yeah.
You gotta have, in order to have any kind of like, you need competition for things to get better. Basically, if you own everything,
Right.
where's your incentive to be better? So
Well,
that's why
here's the- Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm really hoping that with the success of Aquaman that the DCEU can kind of get their foot out their ass and make things better for them because they need some competition on it. Even though I love the Marvel side of Disney, but Disney needs to have some competition. They need to, definitely.
Well, here's the flip side to that, and this is what I'm seeing with people like myself that are coming up with these alternative Star Wars stories. Is that as people, they monopolize on, stuff like Marvel and Fox, and they take all the good stuff. They get Pixar, now they've got Lucasfilm. So as they suck all that up, and what they're going to do is that they're going to create a vacuum for something better to come along. And it's like, what's the old saying about necessity? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
And so the fans are going to call out for something better, something with more meat, something that's more interesting. And there's going to be people out there say, hey, now's my moment. Now's my chance. I want to take it, And they're going to punch it. And then Disney's going to be left in the dust because all they've got is a bunch of cobwebbed material that they don't know what to do with at all because they have no creative sense to themselves. They're all businessmen.
You know what else is going to be a problem? When Disney gets all those franchises, right, from Fox, they get the Alien franchise, I think, and the Predator franchise.
Uh-oh.
And they also have the Punisher now, and that means none of those franchises will ever be R-rated again, because Disney is all PG-13.
Right.
So we get R-rated Alien movies, and it just won't work. Because,
they may have to split off, and I mean they've got Touchstone Pictures, which they do R-rated movies, but no one really associates Disney with Touchstone, and Touchstone came out in the 80s, and for a while it didn't look like it was going to go anywhere, but it's still here. I mean they've done lots of big movies that have done very well, but they may have to create a whole new outlet for Disney-owned, IP for Marvel, for Fox, and all these other things in order to do it right. Because if they're going to play it smart, which I doubt, but if they're going to play it smart, they've got to have that outlet and maintain the integrity of that property because that's what's made it so successful. If they try to PG-13 it or PG it, it's not going to work, and they should know that.
I don't think they do know that.
D. Pensek brought up a good point. He said stock market fluxes could play into Fox's stock/payment issues for a deal closing.
Okay.
I agree that could be a very good possibility.
I will say about them, leaning towards R-rated materials. I mean, technically Daredevil, Punisher, and all of the Netflix stuff was rated R. So kind of sort of, and it still is Disney. You know what I mean? So even though it's a Marvel property, it's still under Disney. So that's kind of their loophole. To do something like that, they can maybe, but I don't trust them because they don't know how to stay true to their customer base anyway. I mean, just look at what they did with The Last Jedi. They just like screw all of us who were like the people who made Star Wars. We want these new people who don't even come to your movie theaters because it showed in Solo that nobody really went to the movie theater for Solo.
But was that Disney just being negligent? Wasn't it really about Kathleen Kennedy trying to steer the ship with Rian Johnson holding the paddle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah. But the one thing I did notice, and I've seen a lot of people mention this, is that where's she been at? You heard nothing from her.
He's in a closet holding onto the broom for the janitor to come in and get it when he needs to mop the floor. That's what she's doing. She's holding her breath for 3 years and staying away from a microphone and camera setup.
Yeah.
Well, she knows that people are pissed as hell at her and are calling for her head. But it's not just her. I'm after Iger, I'm after her, and I'm after Roundhead's job because none of them know what the hell they're doing and they're screwing everybody up.
Well, here's the funny thing. No one's talking about Ryan's new movie with the James Bond guy. What's his name?
Oh yeah.
He had a stormtrooper cameo in Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
No one's talking about that movie. I haven't seen anything about it. Nothing.
I will be so happy if that movie. I mean, granted, there's nothing against the actors. I think they got a bunch of good actors going to be working with him in it, but nothing against him. But I hope that movie fails miserably. He is on the blacklist until forever. Like there's nothing he can do that
Why gotta be black?
Support. What's that?
Why gotta be black?
Pensick said, "Isn't Disney really to blame? The buck stops with Disney." I agree. They should.
Well,
the people over Iger, when they saw what happened with The Last Jedi, should have stepped up to the plate and said, "Look, she's not fulfilling her contract," which Craig has gone over. He has a copy of that girl's contract and said she has not fulfilled that contract. It should never have been renewed. She should have had her ass fired on the spot. But just because they did not want to say, okay, the fans were right, so we're going to fire her ass, and they did not want to piss the SJWs off, they redid her damn contract. So
Wait,
I think it's more of a political issue.
Hold on, her contract was public record?
I don't know how Craig got it. I just know he has it, and he has said he's gone over it. He's even talked to his lawyer about the contract and things in it. And yeah, she's broken her contract in so many ways. It's not funny. But they won't fire her because she's a girl.
I get the feeling, though, it's a political thing because I heard a rumor that Iger is looking to get into politics after Disney. He doesn't want to die working for Disney.
Yeah.
He's got bigger plans. On top of that, I just feel like Iger has stepped into something much bigger than he anticipated. He thought that he had an easy money deal with the $4.6 billion buy of Disney, of Lucasfilm. And then all of a sudden, he thought, oh, she's got it. She's Lucas's right-hand man. I saw the interview. She said that George Lucas is going to be her Yoda, that she's going to respect the characters the way that George wrote them, that she was going to treasure this treasure trove that Lucas was. Okay, great. Okay, my job's done. This is easy. This is all downhill. And then everything happened with the Jedi backlash. And I could just see like all the board members going, "Oh, what the hell just happened? What do we do? I don't know. Just don't say anything. Just pull back and let them do damage control and see if they can sort this out on their own." Because supposedly she knows what she's doing. She's been a producer all these years. Her name has been attached to so many blockbuster successes. But the thing is, though. Well, the thing is, though, she was just a voice in the background. She wasn't the one that was creating it. She wasn't Spielberg. She wasn't Lucas. She wasn't Harrison Ford.
No, she was an investor.
She was, she was the money. She was the one that went to the bank to get a loan. So, okay, I got the money.
And she was a background
and that's
dancer.
it.
So D. Pentex says really quick, KK won a sexual discrimination lawsuit in the 70s. She knows where the bodies are buried. She is said to have knowledge of the Twilight Zone, the movie on-set accident too. Yeah, that's probably
not only that, but she was supported by a senator who got her first job on, I think it was like a radio station or something, and it wasn't quite an executive position, but it was a very skilled position that she was placed into by this senator. And this senator approached her and says, "We've been watching you." And this is back in her early days when she was still, dusting cabinets in people's offices.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's been on someone's list since that time. So she's like somebody's golden child. So she's got protection outside of, Hollywood.
It ultimately comes down to this. An example I like to use is when the UFC was sold. WME, who bought the company for $4.2 billion, they only did that deal contingent upon the fact that Dana White, the guy who basically built it from the ground up and has been running it, remains the person running the show. That was a deal breaker, and it should have been the same thing for Disney. They should have made a contingent where, okay, we will buy the company, we'll buy it for, maybe they bumped up the price to 4.5, but it's contingent upon George Lucas staying on and running the show, at least creatively.
Here's the problem.
That's their mistake.
George was burned out from all the fans' backlash over the prequels. He got hurt. He got his feelings hurt, and he was bitter. And out of spite, he sold Lucasfilm to Disney. He says, "You know what? Fine. Let someone else make the Star Wars movies, and then you'll see."
He was working on episode 7, 8, and 9 before the deal.
Well,
Lucasfilm was going to make it.
They were, until Kathleen Kennedy got her clutches around it.
I think the biggest mistake George did is he should have just kept the company and then hired people. Like, he should have been like the big boss. He should have been his version of Iger and just hired, subcontract the stuff out. He didn't have to do himself, but he had to say that would have been, I think would have been better. And I'm actually a prequel lover. I mean, obviously, Phantom Menace was not good. Attack and Clone wasn't that great either. But Revenge of the Sith, I loved. I thought Revenge of the Sith was good. I mean, it took him 2 tries to get it a little bit better. But, I wasn't one of those people who was like, burn them all because he messed up, the prequels. I would have been perfectly fine if he would have tried it again, or at least had somebody else do it. Give his idea and say, "Look, make this happen." I think that would have worked out better, but what are you going to do?
Both Disney and Lucasfilm should have done something about all those employees calling everyone who didn't like The Last Jedi racist and sexist and Russian bots and all that. That stuff alienated the fans big time.
Oh, yeah.
And they basically just fueled it.
Yeah.
I think they were hoping that it would just burn itself out. The thing about these Disney execs, they don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to get, they don't want to get blood on their hands. So they've just been staying out of it as much as possible. Even the statement that was issued by Iger about, "Well, we're going to make some changes," I mean, that was about as neutral as you can get as far as a response in terms of saying, yes, we screwed up. We're going to make changes. We're going to give Kathleen Kennedy 3 years, but we're going to stuff her in a broom closet and make her shut up and stay away from everybody. So,
yeah, that was one of the things. I've told a story before. So my channel was really, I had my channel for years. I never really used it that much. I had it for like my music videos and stuff like that. But after The Last Jedi, I just couldn't contain myself, and I just started talking about it. And it kind of like snowballed into me actually, building my channel more on a commentary side. But I got to tell you, the one thing that really annoyed me, that really sparked my hatred for them for the most part, was the was the fact that they kept calling people, sexist and racist and all this other stuff.
Man,
And
baby.
I actually got blocked by Chuck Wendig one time. All I did was text him one time. I was nice as possible. I didn't even say anything mean to him or anything. I said, hey, listen. I said, you can't keep going around saying that everybody who didn't like that movie was racist. I'm clearly not white, and I didn't like that movie, and he blocked me. I was like,
Chuck is special.
Yeah,
he's a special man.
Yeah, he's very, very special. So the funny thing is, you want to know something funny? I haven't gotten blocked by Ryan Johnson yet either. I don't know why.
No.
I said stuff to him.
Ryan
He
won't
hasn't
really
blocked
block you unless you're just really in his face about stuff.
Mhm.
He's not a ticking time bomb like Chuck Wendig or Brian Young or the Wards. He actually plays it kind of cool, even though he's kind of an ass at times. So,
Yeah, trust me. I know. I've been trying like hell to get Ryan to block me, and he won't.
yeah.
I've been trying so hard. I even sent him a nice little message and said, you don't make your new characters good by screwing the original characters of your story. That just pisses people off and makes your new characters worthless.
Well,
And
that's
your new
playing
characters
into his-
your new characters having no arc and nobody giving a shit because there's no reason to give a shit about him. That's not how you write a
Right.
story. And he's
Well,
still
Ryan's a
won't-
nihilist, number one. Number two, you played right into his little personal philosophy of I want half the audience hating my movie and the other half loving it. So what you
Yeah.
gave him was constructive criticism, which he soaked up like Superman soaks up the sun.
But
you
the
know.
biggest one was I don't know if y'all heard about this, but John, the Star Wars dad, his
Okay.
little boy Cody, did a video and he sent it and John sent it to Ryan Johnson.
Right,
Now the
I heard
boy
about
is
that.
like 10, and Ryan Johnson was all over his ass about his video. I jumped all up in Ryan's ass over that and still didn't get blocked.
What did he
What
say
was
about
it
the
that
video?
Ryan said about the 10-year-old kid?
He was basically telling him that his idea sucked and that, he was all over the kid about his whole Star Wars theory.
Well, you have to
And-
understand something about Ryan. He's the same age
Hold on.
mentally as that kid that made the video.
Bonnie, can you link that to me? That
But
tweet you're talking about?
He is also a
let me see if
textbook
I can-
narcissist.
Let me see if
Yeah.
I can find the video really quick, and I will see if I can drop it in the chat.
Speaking of narcissist, like think about the arrogance behind that mentality of, okay, half people are gonna love my movie and half people are gonna hate it because half the people are gonna be too stupid to understand what I've done with my film intellectually. That's why else would you want that? Like, why else would you think that is the outcome, the ideal outcome for your film?
You know where he got that? Where I
Right.
think he got it? Most modern comedians that are still funny have that philosophy. The idea is to have half the audience laughing and half the audience terrified and wanting to leave. I swear he pulled it
that's-
from that. And it doesn't,
I
you
don't
cannot
agree with that.
apply that to films. You cannot
No.
apply it to films.
I got blocked by that Brian Young fellow too.
Yeah.
He had ranted
we-
about.
It's because you're
Something-
not a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, he had.
Oops,
he had
did I say that
posted-
out loud?
He had posted something about people hate diversity and stuff and inclusion in Star Wars, and I said
Yeah.
the old EU had plenty of that. Star Wars was always inclusive. If you'd paid attention to the last canon, you'd know that. And he blocked me for it.
Yeah. You made too much sense. What were you thinking?
I mean,
So
the Knights of the Old Republic game, the first one, had a bisexual Jedi in it. And there was no outcry.
Oh, okay. Didn't even know it.
Juhani, I think she was called. She was
Juhorny?
bisexual. Yeah, she was so horny. Juhani. And she was bisexual. Nobody cared. It was a great game, great
Most
story.
guys don't
great
care.
character.
Most guys
she-
actually encourage that kind of stuff in characters.
Wasn't Sheev Palpatine also bisexual?
What?
Yeah, I remember seeing something about that. that Palpatine.
Next, the frogs are going to be gay.
Well, they already are.
Palpatine. No, sorry.
Tarkin.
Tarkin.
Tarkin's gay.
Tarkin.
We call him Touchy Tarkin in the Force.
So
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
it's when you guys are talking about like how the the EU and canon and all that stuff like that. There was this article about comics, and I thought it just hit me like a lightning bolt. Because the guy said one of the problems with comics right now is that they constantly keep retconning. So it basically makes everything that you just comics was basically a build up, a collection. That's what you want to do. You want to collect comics. And if every year you're doing Crisis on Infinite Earth type of series, it makes whatever you had last year worthless. So with that same kind of thinking, it's like, why would you want to redo the EU? You had 30 years of material. All you had to do was just keep the names and dates and people the same, and you could have just twisted the storyline a little bit, kind of like what Marvel's doing, because Marvel, the MCU, they have all these characters, Thor, Captain America, all that stuff. They tweaked the stories, but they still kept it very similar to, to the comic book and translated that into a movie. I have no idea why they could not have done that with Star Wars. They could have easily done that.
Lucasfilm's official answer to that, which is a non-answer, and just before I get to it, I don't agree with any of it, is that, we couldn't have Luke being this godlike character at the end of Return of the Jedi and him becoming so godlike in the EU and being godlike by the time he was, in the sequel trilogy, and we couldn't have him, the audience would be fixated on him. So the fuck what?
I don't know.
Who cares?
I actually think that they
actually had an answer for that, and I don't know if anybody y'all might not follow this, but Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball series period, Goku is basically a he's a god, Super Saiyan god. He's the strongest being in a cartoon, and especially in the Z version of it, they found ways to take Goku out of it and then make the story build up, even though he was still the main character. It's called writing. It's called knowing how to write your character.
Exactly.
Or Luke could have been a godlike character all he wanted to. Guess what? Even in the EU, Luke was still a godlike character. But guess who one of my favorite characters was besides Luke was? Jaina Solo. I love Jaina Solo.
And why Rey had potential in the beginning.
Well, here's the thing about
you could have had Luke ride off into the sunset like Indiana Jones after doing his part and trusting the galaxy to a new generation of Jedi. It didn't have to be exactly like the EU. Nobody said it had to be. Nobody.
Yeah. The thing about Luke is that you could have continued his hero's journey as a Jedi Master and going through the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs of training students. And it's like, okay, I don't have Master Yoda always to give me advice. I've got to figure out a lot of this stuff on my own. So he could have been making a lot of mistakes and then learning how to overcome them. And then, losing a good student to the dark side or losing a student, to getting killed or whatever, and then having to deal with that.
The EU, the point of the EU, sorry, just one little point here.
Yeah.
Luke he wrote a completely different chapter than the Jedi Order we left behind in the prequel trilogy.
Right.
It's completely different. Luke went about it in a very, I got to figure this out on my own kind of way. He built an entirely new Jedi Order, and he also became known as unofficially the Great Redeemer, rather than Yoda saying, well, you committed an atrocious act. You're fucked. Your dark side. Get out of my face. Luke believed in bringing people back.
Right. My problem with the EU is that it doesn't allow for too much. I'm one of those people that would just be happy to leave the EU where it is and just kind of create movies and let them stand by themselves without having to go back to source material in books and stuff. And that way you can write something fresh that people can look at and go, oh, wow, okay, I didn't read about this, but this is cool,
Right.
Yeah, and I got nothing wrong with that. I could piggyback on that and say what I would have done if I had creative control of this. I would have left the EU alone, right? I would have said, okay, we're going to stop with this book. However, all those names, people, characters still exist, right? I would have started this new Star Wars with Jason's daughter, Alana Solo. That would have been that's what I would have started with, because there's nothing written about her, so you can start that story from her. So you can say all her backstory is in the books, but you're going to start the new series, the new action movies by about Alana Solo. Boom.
Yeah,
it's all in the writing.
Here's the thing: they won't be able to capitalize on Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher still being alive, and there were a lot of fans who wanted to see them on screen again.
Oh, you still could have did that, because
how if you still have the EU, then you're tied to whatever the EU canon is, and you risk contradicting what happened in the books if it's still canon.
Well, that's why I said you can tweak it, kind of like how Marvel did with their series. So you start with, Princess Leia and Han Solo as Alana's adopted grandparents / parents, and then just like she's the new Jedi. Boom, you ain't got a problem with that.
The thing about George and Luke is that Luke doesn't have any kids. You've got Leia and Han Solo. They got together. They're the ones that had the kids. And I would have just gone off of that. It's like, why not? Luke's focused on his school and training the next, he doesn't have time for family. So he's going to be kind of like alone in that sense. And you can build so many new characters out of that. And, even with Finn and Rey, I would have had them as Jedi trainees, but I would have focused more on their weaknesses rather than their strengths, and I wouldn't have made Finn comic relief. I would have taken him seriously, and I would have focused. Well, I would have focused on his spear, right? And with Rey, you've got her rage. Like, she's a rage fiend throughout, like, TFA and Return of the Jedi. She's always tapping into rage. And none of that's being addressed. And that needs to be her dark side. That needs to be her stumbling block. And with Finn, his stumbling block needs to be his fear. It's like, getting caught by the First Order, and the fear of everything going wrong, and the fear of not being able to do anything about it. There's so much material there,
Well, again, I'd like to interject here that Lucasfilm would again say to all this, the people at Lucasfilm, I've seen them say this, we don't have, they're saying that the people that are disgruntled, that we don't want, we want the EU to be canon, and that's not true. What we wanted something different. At least I did. I wanted something different.
Yeah. Me too.
What I didn't have any problem with something different. It's the fact that it's not that you didn't make the EU canon. It's the fact that the EU is better than what you gave us. If you had given us different but good, we would have accepted it.
Well, they gave us a Mary Sue.
Yeah, and with the EU at first, when I first heard the news, I was upset, but I kind of understood their mentality, because this way their hands aren't tied creatively. But what I thought was, they decanonize the EU so they don't risk contradicting it, and they're not tied to stories already told. But they were going to still keep it to pull from the best parts of it, because that's what it was looking like leading into The Force Awakens, with the character of Rey and Ben Solo, and like they were like pulling inspiration from Jason and Jaina. But little did I know that they had no idea what the fuck they were doing.
I was perfectly duped with The Force Awakens. I was like you say, when they said they was getting rid of the EU, I was a little bummed out. But I was like, okay, well, they're going to keep the names the same, at least. That's what I thought. I thought at least keep the names the same. I thought that, Rey was going to be Jaina, and Ben was going to be Jason, and, whatever. So I thought that was what they were going to do, but, they went totally different. And I think, like you say, if they would have gave us something that was, you guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, we're all here.
Seth left and came right back.
I'm back. I'm back. I dropped out. Sorry.
Mr. In and out.
If they would have gave us better than what we had in the EU, it would have been so much of a letdown. Because like I was saying before, like all the stuff that they're doing it's like it doesn't make any sense. And like you can't make me unsee or unread the stuff that I read already. But so what you're putting in there doesn't make sense to, even though you don't want to. I know what they were trying to do to not have to compare it to it, but being that it exists, you have to supersede that somehow to make me forget about the EU. But they're not doing that.
Right.
Making Luke milk the tits of a damn space cow pissed me off.
I just don't know why they thought that giving the writing to 3 different directors who none of them have really a writing pedigree, rather than one central writing team, which is what you had in the OT and the PT. You had one man writing all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they thought that would be a good idea in the sequel trilogy to break the formula like that. You could have had several people in a think tank, but it would need to be one writing team for all 3 films to keep it all consistent.
Lawrence Kasdan wrote Empire. Well, he cleaned up Empire's script.
Yeah, he cleaned up the script
for Lucas.
Yeah.
Empire was written by a woman who passed away before the movie was ever made, and Lucas pretty much didn't like her script, from what I understand. But she's the one that was responsible for making Leia such a strong character in Empire. And you know, if they, I wish they had gotten the team together from Empire, everyone that had put something into making Empire what it was. They should have at least gone back to them and said, "Hey, can you help us out?" Instead of, you know, giving it to Kasdan and JJ to let them kind of hash it out. And I think that's why we got stuck with Starkiller Base instead of like a fleet of dreadnought planet killers. They could have been zipping around the galaxy, laying waste to all the New Republic outposts and capital, you know, cities and whatnot.
I actually like the idea they did. Like, obviously it's optimal to have one director for all 3, but having 3 different directors who have different strengths, like for each movie, I think that's good. My problem is you can't do that unless you have one complete story for all 3 films already.
Right, a basic story arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think JJ tried to write that, and Rian Johnson came in and.
Yeah, it's like Disney should have been like, look, this is what our creative team came up with. This is the story we want to tell. JJ, I want you to direct Act 1 because you're good at setting up intrigue. I want Ryan to do Act 2 because you're good at, I don't know what the fuck he's good at. And then Trevorrow for Episode 9 because, you know, you really love Star Wars or whatever, what have you. But they should have handed directors stories to adapt instead of saying, hey, direct this movie and figure out what happens.
Yeah. Then you get the equivalent of Rian Johnson playing with his toys.
Oh.
Yeah, in his backyard. Yeah, that was, well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what JJ pulls out of the hat for 9. I mean, when I walked out of 8, I was just thinking, I don't care about 9. I don't really care what they're going to do with it. But
I feel you. I'm 100% with you. When I left it, I had never been so disappointed in my life when I left.
Yeah. But you know, talking with my friends in the Senate and on Twitter, I've kind of come around. I've got a slight interest in seeing what happens with 9 and seeing, you know, because I've heard some backstory about JJ and him not getting along with Catherine or Kathleen, well, KK, and not getting along with her, and then her being the reason why he didn't come back to, you know, his dream job of directing Star Wars movies, of which he's such a huge fan.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's a big Star Wars nerd.
If he really was okay with what happened in 8, he would not have come back for Episode 9.
So my biggest thing with Roundheads is the whole disrespect to Mark Hamill and the character of Luke Skywalker. I mean, I don't care if Mark was telling people in his own little subtle way, y'all are not going to like what's going to happen in this movie. You're going to disagree with it. The fact that he basically called Mark Hamill a motherfucker on stage in front of people pissed me off. As if
Yeah.
I wasn't mad enough about what he did to my hero growing up to have that much disrespect for Mark Hamill. That was just, yeah,
Well,
I
it's a
have no
callback.
respect for him.
It's a callback to the character in The Incredibles, Buddy, and he idolized Mr. Incredible, and Mr. Incredible basically didn't want anything to do with him. He was getting in the way. He was a nuisance. He was a pest, and he got pushed out. And what happens? He becomes a supervillain whose sole purpose, whose sole goal in life is to tear down his former hero, Mr. Incredible. And this is basically what you're seeing with Rian Johnson. You're seeing Rian Johnson feeling like he could never measure up to Luke Skywalker, and
You want
so
to bring
he's
him
going
down to his level.
exactly, and he's going to do everything in his power to humiliate him in front of everybody, because he didn't get the action figure that he wished for on his 10th birthday or whatever. So and that's Ryan.
I also think the thing that bothered me the most too was when I was watching the deleted scenes that he put on there, seeing the tears in Mark's eyes. It was almost like,
Yeah.
Luke's dead. You have no respect for him whatsoever. I just wanted to reach through the screen and grab Ryan by his throat and just shake him and say, "You are such an idiot. Why are you even doing a movie to have that much disrespect for a character we love?"
Did you see the background shots they did? It was like I saw a clip of it, and they showed when they was filming Luke, squeezing the space cow.
Yeah, yeah.
Seeing his face, like, what the am I doing, bro? Like,
I made a meme with that face.
Like, it's like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you can see in Mark's face, he's like, bro, I'm supposed to be a grandmaster. I'm over here pressing a boob like it's a boil with pus coming out of it. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson's dad probably forced him to drink spoiled milk at the table as a kid or some shit.
Yeah, you'll drink it, you'll like it.
Yeah, and also the disrespect that KK has for the fans. I mean, to tell fans that little girls can't understand or relate to Luke Skywalker. Who does she think she is? I mean, hell, I'm a girl. I grew up watching Star Wars. I love Luke. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for Leia because she's independent. She's strong. That's cool. But as far as Luke, man, that was my hero. That was my idol growing up. I based every decision I made on what would Luke do.
Well, the thing is, though, with Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson, they are projecting their own personal perspectives onto the fans and assuming everyone thinks of it the way they do. And if they disagree, then they're either sexist or racist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. It's their view.
Jeff says, it won't be Aquaman. I don't think it will. Episode 9, not a chance in hell.
Oh no, it will not. It won't even get $600 million.
It'll be lucky.
Much less $1 billion.
It's gonna get 1.1 billion.
Yeah, it'll be lucky if it beats Solo, because they don't take into consideration. Okay, just because you're a woman, Kathleen Kennedy, does not mean you know what every woman on the planet thinks and feels. Okay, so
She's a damaged woman. That's the problem.
Don't tell me that I cannot relate to Luke Skywalker. I mean, my youngest daughter Alyssa at 19 can relate to Luke better than Rey.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're actually affecting their box office because they're telling people, okay, if a movie's a female lead, then it's not for you, young boys, and if a movie's a male lead, it's not for you, young girls. That's the message they're sending.
Yeah, I mean, in itself, it's a sexist statement, both directed at girls and, Luke Skywalker, the character Luke Skywalker.
Again, like I said before, like I said, Luke Skywalker is my favorite character. He's my favorite character too. And guess what? He doesn't have to be black for me to like him. That's the thing that annoys me so much when people say stuff like that, because it just makes zero sense. Zero sense.
Look at Lando. He was just a cool fucking dude, a cool ass
I love
character.
Lando.
And
Yeah, he
now,
does
now
also.
all he is to Kathleen Kennedy and her stupid identity politic Hollywood. He's a pansexual person of color. That's what he is. Like, no, he was a cool fucking character, and you're making him into something that he didn't. He was already above. You know what I'm saying? He already transcended like the race barrier.
I just got to say one thing: no one can Lando like Billy D. Williams.
Hell yeah, it's like Han.
Yeah.
It's like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, you're right. Here's the thing that they aren't understanding. Okay, we as real Star Wars fans, not the fanboys, not the wannabe fans, but the real core fans of Star Wars. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be making Star Wars movies now, because we are what made Star Wars what it is. Because we fell in love with these characters, we have a bond with these characters, we feel like they're a part of our lives, like they're real, and we can understand it. We can relate to it. We can put it in our everyday lives. But their new characters have nothing. So as far as we're concerned, we don't give two shits about what happens to them. As far as I'm concerned, kill Rey, kill Kylo. I don't give a damn. Episode 9, it can rot. I'm not going to go watch it. I didn't watch Solo. A lot of
No,
people told
neither
me
did
I
I.
shouldn't. A lot of people told me I shouldn't. Personally, I don't give two shits about it. Why? Because the things that I've heard about the movie makes me sick. When you have somebody telling me Lando is now Pando, screw you. No, Lando is a smooth talking womanizer. That is what he is. That is the Lando that I love and will always remember.
Yeah, I
Luke
mean,
being dead, don't count to me. He's still alive. He's still the best Jedi Master out there.
I mean, are we really going to act like we don't already know what's going to happen? The First Order's going to lose. Kyle's going to get his ass kicked. Rey's going to start a new academy, and she's going to be able to succeed where Luke failed because his toxic ego got in the way. So what's left? What's left for us to be excited about? The only thing I'm excited about is seeing what the fuck they're going to try to do to salvage episode 8. It's like watching a train wreck.
What's left? Episode 9 will end like Pocahontas, like they've been saying.
Pocahontas?
Oh yeah, I brought this up earlier with Stig. I can't remember where I heard it. Stephanie knew about it too. The episode 9 is going to end similarly to how Pocahontas ended.
Oh, that's sick.
How did Pocahontas end?
I don't remember that cartoon
With
either.
Pocahontas running after the ship and waving or something.
Oh, well, anyway,
How touching.
what I wanted to say about Lando is that the first thing that we see with Lando is he says what's up to Han and be like, well, what do we have here? He completely ignored C-3PO. Like they try to make him having this thing with L-37. Lando had his eyes on Leia. Are you kidding me? Everybody had their eyes on Leia.
Oh yeah.
What they thinking saying that he was in love with his droid? Because I saw that movie and I didn't pay for it, by the way. Somebody paid for me. I saw a Solo, and just the fact that his name was given to him by a damn Imperial officer pissed me off. That I mean, it's certain things.
Yeah, that was really that was very.
That really like it makes my eye twitch, and like I'm like what the F, bro? Why is his name given to him by a damn Imperial officer? How? Why?
It was a bad ripoff of a scene from The Godfather 2.
Well,
What scene was that?
Thing.
Ellis Island, where they gave Vito Corleone.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
right.
here's the thing. My nightmare is the last movie I saw for 2018 was The Idiotic: The Last Jedi. I did not pay for it. My son-in-law took us to watch it.
You lucked out.
Oh my God, let me tell you what. It was the worst nightmare of my life. So I need to rectify that. So this year, the only 2 movies I want to definitely see is Aquaman and Bumblebee. And maybe it'll just wipe that out of my mind, because that's the only movie I went and saw in 2018. And I wish I never would have saw it.
Here's a recommendation. Watch Bumblebee second in case you don't like Aquaman.
Oh, I think I will. I think I will like it only because...
I like Aquaman more than Bumblebee, honestly.
Really? Oh my God.
The reason why I liked it was because I'm not a fan of the Bumblebee not talking. That really annoys me.
Okay.
Well, here's my thing. I think I will definitely like Aquaman because I grew up watching Stargate, and Jason was in Stargate as Ronan, and I loved him as Ronan. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're
think
gonna
he's
like
an
it
awesome
because
actor.
of that's the thing. Most people like Aquaman only because of Jason Momoa. Everything else about Aquaman, it's bland. It's really bland in comparison to a lot of movies that have come before it.
So
The only saving
here's-
grace is
He
Jason.
is objectified by many women, and I get it. I don't let
So-
it bother me.
So let me tell you something. And that right there, I think EVS was saying the same thing. He says that is how you get women in seats, not by
Yeah.
saying men are garbage. And like basically like kind of like what Marvel seems to be leaning towards with Captain Marvel. But that's how you get women's asses in seats. Is you get a decently looking guy and a decent story, whatever. And for the guys, you put a decent looking woman and a decent story. If you want to do it like that, if that's what you're trying to market, that's how you get people in seats. You don't go bashing each other's sexes because of reasons
Yeah, you
or agendas. You don't do that.
insert agendas into it. That's all Star Wars needs is for the agendas to stop, but they're not going to.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, Leia was a strong female role model without trying to be. That's all she was. And Kathleen Kennedy and others et al. Are trying to hijack her character today as being more than just that. And it wasn't like that back in the day. It wasn't. She was not presented to us that way. And that's why she was that's why she was so successful, is because she was just a character in a story. She happened to be female, and a lot of young girls latched onto that, and that's fine. That's great.
Well, see, here's my thing. You don't have to make your freaking female lead a freaking Mary Sue to get girls to like her. Because I watched like Conan the Barbarian and Red Sonja and shit growing up. I loved Red Sonja. She was a badass, but she did not make the men look pathetic. So I had respect for her, and that's the way a female lead should be. She should
Well, that was
strong.
the 80s. They knew how to make movies.
Yeah.
Exactly. They knew how to make a woman a badass, be able to take care of herself,
And
but
still hot and
also-
sexy.
but also still,
Sarah Connor.
she
Sarah
could
Connor.
save her if need be. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how she was, Leia was. I mean, hell, she was a badass, but there were times she did need saving, even if it was from her own damn self. But she was a badass. She could stand up for herself.
Every character needs to have weaknesses. And that's
Exactly.
something that Daisy Ridley does not get. As an actress, she doesn't understand it.
I don't think she's that into the story myself. I think she's responding how she's told to respond in interviews. I don't think she really has an opinion about it. That I could be wrong. I just don't. She seems like a really sweet person, but you get into the Star Wars end of it, and she almost sounds scripted to me. Like I said, I might be wrong, but
she's nice, but not too bright. Because she doesn't get what she's there for. She doesn't understand the character. She doesn't understand what it means to have, flaws to make the character stronger. What, Sith bailed out?
His Hangouts keeps crashing on him.
Oh, okay.
She has flaws, all right. Like, for one, she's a disrespectful thief. That's all she is to me in The Last Jedi. That's all she is to me. She disrespected
How does she beat a Grand Master? Oh, that's right. He slipped on the rein.
Bad writing.
He's old and bitter and disconnected from the Force, and he just didn't fight back.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing with me for Rey is, okay, when I watched TFA, I was not happy about the situation of the way they killed Han and disrespected him. But I get why they killed Han. Not the fact that they killed him. It is the way they disrespected his character and then killed him off. That pissed me off, because I don't give a shit what anybody in that movie tries to tell you, or writing that movie tries to tell you. There's no way Han would have turned his back on Leia. There's no way Han would have walked away from Leia. I don't give a shit how bad things got with their son.
Harrison Ford wanted him gone. I respected that grudgingly.
Exactly. Harrison Ford no longer wanted to play as Han, and I respect that. But to kill him off and disrespect his original character the way they did pissed me off to no end. The only thing I can actually say that I liked about that movie is when R2 showed up. I was ecstatic. The rest of the movie, I didn't care. I felt they were disrespecting the characters that I loved.
And
Yeah.
so to piggyback on that, so you heard about that the possibility of the bootleg Yuzong Vong coming to 9, or like they're going to mention them or something.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Started with a
I heard
G.
they were
The
bringing
name
them
of
back.
it.
It's Grisk or something like that. So I was saying, this is why I was saying where you can kind of like tweak the EU. They should have started episode 7, the Galaxy of Peace. They could have had Han, Luke, Leia, Lando, everybody together having like a family reunion, and then they get attacked by this unknown alien force. They're so powerful that the remnants of the Empire and the New Republic have to team up to fight them. That's how you could have started it. You didn't have to do it exactly like the Yazan Vong, because you're not going to have Jason, you're not going to have Jaina, you're not going to have Ben Skywalker. This is just going to be Rey and Ben. And you could have had the Grisk kill Han. This way, Ben sees that and it makes him go to the dark side. Boom. Now you got your dark side person, and you could have made Snoke the leader of the Grisk or whatever, and then have him join Snoke. Whatever. However they could have did that, I don't know. But I just think the way they killed Han was stupid, like you said. I thought, and the biggest thing, and another reason why I will never forgive them is because of the fact we will never, ever be able to get the dynamic trio together ever on screen. It'll never happen ever again.
I feel like this is a desperate attempt to appease the fans, though, bringing in something from the EU
Oh, of course it is.
instead of just coming up with something original.
Yeah, of
the
course.
thing that pisses off the fans the most, the one thing that disrespects fans or the audience when they're watching a movie, is that the characters don't earn what they get. And Rey doesn't earn anything.
Correct. Not based on the already established movie canon. They do not.
Right. Kylo doesn't earn anything. Finn, especially Rose Tico, doesn't earn anything. Everything is handed to them, and it's like carte blanche. Like, oh, here you go. Don't worry about having to work for it.
And in the beginning, Rian Johnson was coming up with this excuse over and over until the fans finally pissed him off so much he stopped using it. And that was, we didn't have time to fit that in the film. Take out the cow tit milking scene, you will. Take out Canto Bite, you will.
Yeah, exactly. Canto Bite was a half hour wasted. You know who? A minute and 10 seconds of the best part of Last Jedi was every scene involving Captain Kennedy. He was the commander of the Dreadnought. For about a minute and 10 seconds, The Last Jedi rocked it.
Really quick, Zoogie says, I still say the lightsaber calling out to Rey in TFA is bullshit. No way that thing would call to Rey and not show her anything of Anakin. I mean, he killed kids with it. I also hate the ties. Yeah, I kind of agree with him on that one. There's no way.
I think JJ was trying to soften TFA. He wasn't trying to go too dark with it. And I think that's the thing. He wanted it kid-friendly, which for the most part it was.
I did want to say a little off topic here. We do appreciate all the chat participation, even though it seemed like we weren't responding to it for a while there.
Yes, guys.
Please keep it coming. Please keep it coming.
I think the biggest thing for me with TFA is, how the fuck are you going to let Rey, who doesn't really know the Force, she's just finding out about the Force, be able to get into Kylo's head, who is a master at this shit, and not only get into his head, but then turn around and kick his ass at the end of the movie, and using the fact that he was shot by Chewie's bowcaster as the excuse. Screw that shit. He would have beat her ass just like Vader did with Luke the first time they fought.
I can understand it. I can understand it if it was one of two things. One, she was part of a bloodline that went beyond Kylo.
A chosen one type, yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Or that Snoke had been mind altering her since she was like a child and had been grooming her to be Kylo's ultimate replacement in case Kylo didn't succeed or didn't meet expectations.
Or you could have made her a little bit older, like 2 or 3 years. She could have been one of Luke's younglings that was whisked away at a very young age. She had youngling training,
Right.
and she didn't quite remember it. And coming into contact with Kylo unlocks it.
Yes.
See, that would have been very easy to do, and it would have been very believable.
I really like that one actually the best. That's a great
I
one.
do too. That makes more sense than what we got.
I heard someone come up with something similar, but it's like she had her mind wiped, and that killed it for me. You know, but I like the idea of her just forgetting. You know, it's like, oh, I'm on this planet now, and I've been abandoned. So.
And the she has just enough training to where she fights Kylo clumsily, and you could write it off, I guess, as Kylo sees something in her, but he's not quite sure what it is, and so he doesn't fight at full strength. Like, he doesn't try to kill her.
He's not used to fighting in the snow, and she's used to fighting in the sand. So.
Right.
He didn't have his winter training.
And I gotta say, it took me a long time to like his lightsaber. When she disabled it in that fight, I was like, good, fuck that thing.
Yeah,
I like it now, but I really, it took me forever.
I think it would have worked better if they had angled the handle, like the hilt, up instead of across. You know, but I think they're going for a religious thing.
Yeah.
Dave Pensek says, "What about Leia? Why, oh why didn't they have her train? Wasted opportunity." I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Totally.
Having her that I think was one of the biggest things with The Last Jedi that pissed me off too, is having her fly through the sky like freaking Mary Poppins. Seriously,
even if she had training, that would have been ridiculous.
Pissed me off. She's not fucking Mary Poppins. Okay, we have a Mary Poppins. Leia's not her.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
Going back to the early days of TLJ, or the early days of us being online bitching about it. I'm pretty sure somebody said, it might have been Craig, that was Kathleen Kennedy's very specific edict that Rian Johnson was to insert it into the film on her orders. It was something she very specifically wanted.
I have heard that.
That was Craig that told us. See, that's the crazy thing with Craig on his channel. The majority of us that follow Craig and hang out with Craig, a lot of the stuff that comes out, we already know about it because he hears about it, tells us, and we know about it before anybody else talks about it. And a lot of people are like, we're crazy. But I've actually literally seen from text messages he sent me information from his inside people about things. And a month later, the same thing he's already gone on and told us about is being reported about.
It's not Mike Zero, is it?
No, Mike Zero's just somebody to hang out with, to have fun and laughs, because Mike Zero has no clue what's really going on. Nothing at all. Matter of fact, one quick tidbit of information Craig gave us before he went into the hospital for his second surgery was that, or it might have been right after he came out, but anyway, was that he had a script in front of him where in episode 9, they are bringing Padme back. He's not sure what the scenario is with it, but it's basically her talking to Anakin about babies.
Oh, God.
I'm not sure if that means that they were talking about having babies or what the situation was, because they did not know they were having twins. So either they're going to have to make it some scenario where they were talking about having babies.
Natalie Portman,
otherwise, it's going to screw up the entire thing.
If this is true, Natalie Portman was very detached from this whole thing by the time she quit. She was finished with episode 3. If she really is coming back in 9, this is a testament to Disney's hiring power in dollars.
I think it's more like going to be a forced vision or something, or a flashback type thing. So it's probably just going to be something from previous stuff that they pull in and use.
Does anybody know who's writing 9?
Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams. And I don't like Chris Terrio's resume if you look it up on Wikipedia.
And J.J. Abrams can't close shit.
Yeah. Chris Terrio, I haven't heard of him.
He's written a couple of recent films that you've probably seen that are not very good. I believe, I want to say, no, actually I don't want to say without looking him up. Hang on a second.
Wait, Chris Terrio?
Terrio.
Okay.
T-R-R-I-O.
Oh, so he wrote The Sopranos. Some scenes. Maybe I'm not looking at the right one.
Ryan
Deep
Johnson
Impact
directed
said-
a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad. That didn't mean anything.
Yeah,
Deep
but he's
Impact
been
said
on.
he wrote Justice League.
Yeah, he wrote Batman versus Superman. He wrote
I
Justice
wasn't impressed
League.
with that.
He wrote Heights, if you've seen that.
Nope.
Zoogie says, as far as I'm concerned, Han died in the EU. Fuck Disney.
Oh, he wrote Argo, which that is a good film, but
Didn't see it.
it's historic.
Oh
It's
wait,
a
I did see it.
historic
Let's see.
Justice League is as cheesy gets. I'm really worried.
Yeah, and then he turned Batman into like a mass murderer. Wow. Okay, something to look forward to, maybe. I was being sarcastic.
I don't know that the original writer would have been much better. I mean, Jurassic World wasn't that hot, but
Well,
Jurassic World was a popcorn movie.
At least he wanted to keep Luke alive.
until the end of the film, yeah.
Yep. I give him credit for that one.
I was gonna say about Mike Zero, I don't like his video making style. He is, as Craig says, doing it by the numbers, and that irritates me because a lot of his stuff is just opinion pieces that are presented as fact when they're not. But I will say one nice thing about him: he's on our side.
Yeah.
He's on the same side we are. He wants the same things we do.
D Pensek says the kitchen sink could save the galaxy. Ha ha ha. Yeah, that's about it. The kitchen sink's about the only thing that will save the galaxy right now.
I saw this video about Luke supposedly being resurrected, like Gandalf the White style. Which
Well, they didn't even have to resurrect him. You know, they could have just, because like when you see the end of TLJ, you see the twin sons of Tatooine just before Luke fades out, and there is the point that someone brought up that Luke's robotic hand didn't fall to the ground; it went with him. Yeah.
They could easily just say he didn't die. They could easily just say that.
Yeah, Abrams could do that. I'm hearing both contradictions and confirmations. As far as Mark himself goes, there was that article a while back. It wasn't too long ago. It was like a month ago where he was saying the script was so damn secretive that they flew it in and flew it out the same day every time he had to read from it.
And he also has made the statement that he knows everything about episode 9.
I feel bad for Mark because I'm sure it wasn't easy getting him talked back into doing this whole thing again. The fandom thing has probably worn him out a little bit, and I can understand that too. And, to just have him go in and he's like, are you serious? The fans are going to fucking hate this. I know he had to have said that at some point or imply it, just based on the way he's talked about everything in hindsight, all that, all those videos of him trying to tell us the truth.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the look on his face and on Kathleen and Ryan's face when he said that episode 8 and the new stories are not about, it's not Luke's story anymore. The fans in the audience are just like ready to get up and walk out, and some of them started to. Kathleen was just like, I just want everybody to know how important he is to this movie. No, you're a lying bitch trying to make money off of something that you think is cool, and it's not.
That was at Celebration 2017.
Yeah, I remember that interview.
He is in the film.
And
exactly.
I love Mark Hamill's response to that. He's like really sarcastic. He's like, "Well, that's good to hear." It's like he was in on it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, she definitely tried to pull the wool over everybody's eyes with that nonsense. Because it was the truth. Because Luke Skywalker he's one of the draws. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia. You don't have all three of them. What do you have?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of when what's his name? Joel Schumacher directed Batman Forever. And that movie received such a huge backlash from all the Bat fans that 10 years later, he came back out, and Schumacher did, and actually apologized for what he did. And
Right.
I can see the same thing happening here.
Was that Batman Forever or Batman and Robin?
Was it Batman and Robin? Well, he did 2 movies, and the first
Okay.
Batman
both of
movie he directed, I swear to God, it was Vegas Batman. Because it's like the Batmobile glowed in the dark. It had lights, that lit it up. And it's like, that's not the Batmobile. That's Liberace's Batmobile or whatever. It's like, the hell is this? And then you got the thong shots, of Batman and Robin, where you're seeing Batman and Robin and Batgirl putting on their uniform or their outfit or whatever, their armor. And then you're getting these massive butt shots like, okay, well, we know what's on Joel Schumacher's mind, but it's like, that's not Batman. Batman was like what Tim Burton gave us with the first one in 1989.
Mhm.
That was the first step back to the original darker version of Batman. It's like, let's take Batman seriously. Let's treat him with some respect. And then along came the Christian Bale movies with him as Batman, and I really loved him as Batman. And someone pointed out that he was kind of weak as a Bruce Wayne, which I tend to agree with to a point. But he really played the vulnerability really well. And then we got Batfleck, and I'm like, oh, okay, And it's like it's the same thing with Luke's character. It's like we had a great Luke, and then we had like a semi-great Anakin, and now we've got a terrible Luke. And
Luke is a hard act to follow, and I totally would respect a movie where Luke was kind of half-assed done, not one where Luke was deliberately discredited, brought down, and trashed to try and make a case for killing him off at the end of the movie, which the fans didn't go along with. That's why they did that to him. They broke down his character because they thought it would be more palatable for the fans to swallow his death at the end, which we didn't.
No. Well, the thing is, though, it goes back to Rian Johnson's personal life being spewed all over the screen for us. That's what we got. We didn't get a good story. We didn't get a good character. We didn't get a good reason why Luke was the way Luke was. We got Rian Johnson's personal childhood traumatic history in a nutshell.
Yeah, he even said that Rose Seeker was somebody he would have hung out with in high school. So it was all about him.
Ew, creepy.
I also believe because they had plans for Leia in Episode 9 that it's on my own personal belief. You don't have to agree with it. That Kathleen Kennedy did away with Luke because he's a male.
Well, that worked out well, didn't it?
For her.
Yeah, real well.
It's like, well, it's going to be interesting to see what we've got with 9. I mean, I am willing to give it a shot. I'll probably never see Solo, but
You're
I don't care.
not missing anything, brother.
Yeah, but it's like I don't really care about it. I'm not invested in the actor that they picked.
Here's a question for you, Iron Wolf, and for anybody in the chat still wanting to be proactive. What would it take if you saw a certain thing happen in the upcoming trailers to get you to say, no, I'm not going?
Okay. Oh, not going?
Not going to 9.
Oh.
It can be as general or as specific as you like, and everybody can answer this question if you want.
Luke is a Force ghost.
I was going to say the same thing. If Luke is a Force ghost, forget it. It's
I'm
over.
done.
For me, it's going to be Rey and Kylo locking lips, or even coming close to it.
I just tasted my lunch. Thank you.
Okay. My answer to that question is seeing the trailer itself will keep me from going to see Episode 9 because I want nothing to do with it. Period. I hate it. I hate it without even seeing the trailer.
I can understand that.
I know JJ's not a closer. And I know the writer is they're just throwing everything in the closet they can from the OT to try to bring us back. I'm not giving them the satisfaction, so screw them.
Pensec says Force Ghost or Vader's breathing.
Yeah. Yeah, don't bring Vader back. Don't bring Anakin back. Don't bring anybody back from the OT or the prequels that wasn't in TFA.
You had a chance. It's like you had a chance to tell a new good story, stand alone on it.
They're bringing them back. They're bringing them back for sure.
Really?
Yeah, you're probably going to see. I would guess JJ's not going to let a lot of the stuff go that was in the Art of the Force Awakens that he really wanted to put in there. That concept of Anakin's ghost switching back and forth between Vader and Anakin.
Oh, right.
That will probably, if JJ has his way, that will probably play out in some form.
Yeah, I would imagine a lot has changed from that original idea because of The Last Jedi. I mean, the way I would play it is I would have Rey get pissed off at Luke for not training her and then turn to Kylo to train her. Because now she's like at the halfway point. She's got enough of a dose of the Force to go, I want more. But now she's got no one else to turn to except for Kylo. And if they keep Luke alive, then they can have him working towards bringing Kylo to the light since he's lost Rey. So that's just the way I would play it.
I might play that out like that type of scenario. I might play it out like Rey goes to Kylo for training, but she gets that I want more Anakin attitude, and Kylo starts having to beat her back, and he's like, what the fuck am I doing? She's a monster. I have to turn back to the light to beat her.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I would have a really good lightsaber showdown between the two of them where he has to beat her to a pulp. And
you need an actual lightsaber duel too.
Yeah,
but the thing about Disney is that they can't.
Damn movie.
The problem with Disney is that you can't have a girl getting beat up.
Zoogie says, "Fuck 9. I hope it bombs in epic proportions. I want Iger reeling his hands nervously before a meeting of the shareholders, having to explain this mess and why their streaming service will bomb after."
Well, here's my take on that. I would rather have one awful movie than two. I want to see 9 do well. We've already had one shit show. We don't need another. So let's hope that 9 does well, so we can at least have 2 movies out of 3 that we can actually that are watchable.
OG, I agree with you, Ray, but only in the context of TLJ. She looked a little more human in TFA.
Well, here's my thing. The only reason I want to see it bomb is just to prove a point. They say it's Star Wars fatigue. That's what our problem is, which is not the fact. Because you could throw out a Star Wars movie every month and the Star Wars fans would love it. As long as it's a good movie. So
look at all the fan films.
And
look
then,
at all the fan films that are coming out.
Exactly. And then you have people like John Boyega saying that, your boycott is bull, it's bold. Bring it on. We're ready for it. We can take it. I want to shut them up. I want to show them we are why they're there. Without us, there would be no episode 8, 9, 7. It would have been done with the originals and the prequels.
I think they're feeling that.
Why I want to do it.
I think they're feeling that, and this is why they've gone to Jon Favreau. This is why they've gone to the GOT guys, B&B. I don't remember their names, but and this is why Ryan has been kind of like shuffled off to the side, and this is why KK, you don't see or hear from her. She's not doing photo ops. She's not doing PR. She's not doing interviews. She's been completely silent. She's been black-bagged.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for me, I want 9 to fail from the boycott only on the reason of all those people at Disney that attacked the fans, put us in groups and said this and said that, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and being allowed to do it, going on Twitter and attacking people. And I want it to fail just to show them, you know what, you think you have the power, but you don't, because without us, you have nothing. So, I mean, we took a stand with Solo, and we showed them something.
Yeah, we did.
And their opinion, that was just Star Wars fatigue. So now they have had no Star Wars movies out there, and now they're going to come up with 9. And then if it gets real bad to the point it bombs worse than Solo, they're going to say, no, it's not Star Wars fatigue. What the hell is going on? And take a better look at this situation.
Well, here's what I'm
That's what
saying
they
with the
need.
thinking. Here's what I'm saying with the thinking behind that. They had to call it Star Wars fatigue because they can't admit that they screwed up at this point. And everything got shelved because they realized we don't know what the hell we're doing. And we need to take a step back and find out what's going on, because the corporate face has to be spotless. You know, they can't get their hands dirty. They can't get mud on their suits. They can't get a blemish on their face. They have to maintain an image for the kids and the families at home. So, and this is why they did what they did. You know, they have to save face, and you know, that's what we got.
And that's the problem. I mean, they're
not being human.
There's good movies coming out.
Yeah.
The problem is it's not by Disney. And it's because they're not listening to the fans. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not much of a Marvel fan. I don't really watch Marvel because my biggest thing has always been Star Wars, but my daughter does watch Marvel. And she's told me, you know, with the comment that the way they're going now, they're going the same way Star Wars has been going.
Yeah.
Marvel's screwed. Marvel's screwed.
They've been doing that for some time. It's just a lot of my friends that have been watching Marvel movies are going, no. And it's like, I noticed stuff like way back in Ultron. I'm like, oh, what are they doing here? And it's like, you have Joss Whedon, for crying out loud, directing your movies. The guy's a huge so-called feminist, male feminist. And so, you know, you're going to have Buffy the Vampire Slayer in your Marvel movie, you know, and you can't get away from it, you know. And there's this scene, there's a scene in Last Jedi where Leia slaps Poe, and it's like, whoa, really? You went there? And there's a scene that's very similar in, I think it's Age of Ultron, where Hawkeye takes everyone back to his farm, and his wife just completely just emasculates him, you know. And she talks down to him and says, "Oh, well, I'll tell you when you're old enough." Like, she's seeing through, like, she's seeing that Black Widow and Bruce Banner have a thing going. And so she says offhanded, like, "Oh, so when did Black Widow hook up with Bruce Banner or whatever?" He's like, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Oh, you're so cute. I'll tell you when you're older." It's like, this guy is risking his life to save the planet. And she's freaking talking down to him, condescending, you know?
Yeah.
You know, he's paying for a house for her to live in safety. And she's got the gall to put this guy down. You know, it's like, who wrote this shit? You know? And I saw the same thing in Last Jedi. You just slapped a commanding officer, one of your best commanders, one of your best X-Wing pilots, in the face and treated him like a bitch. Because he did what he was supposed to do. He took down that dreadnought. He did his job.
So I'm still stuck on how that the Resistance was winning, and then they have a handful of ships now. I don't understand how that happened.
Bad writing.
Yeah.
Really quick here.
Well, that's a part where JJ really screwed up with the story. Like the First Order just literally was pulled out of his ass. There's no. I do not believe for a second that just destroying Hosni and Prime would have given them carte blanche to take over the whole damn galaxy. I mean, hell, they could have moved the galactic capital back to Coruscant if they needed to.
Well, in the books, they did.
Okay. Guys, really quick, OG says Marvel is doomed. I would love to see both fail. Disney stock will plummet. And Jeff says Disney is almost a monopoly with Fox purchase, they will not worry about competition, so they can talk crap about us thinking no consequences.
Hey,
I
they'll
hate
be,
to
I
break
was
it
saying
to you
earlier.
guys.
I
they'll
was
be
saying that earlier about them. Not, they need competition in order to make them better.
Yep.
That's why I really hope DC does something. They
Yep.
need to.
there'll be one upside to the Fox purchase. You'll see the Fox 20th Century Fox logo at the beginning of a Star Wars movie again. It's too bad you won't have attendance in the auditoriums though to see it.
Yeah. And then OG says 2019, the year they drove old Disney down.
Well,
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you guys, but DC is on its way in the same direction.
Yeah. I can see that
It's
already.
just a
Has
matter of
been for a
time.
while.
Yeah. I mean, with the Wonder Woman thing and like, you know, her being, oh, boys. These are men. These are men who have risked their lives. Again, it's men risking their lives and then being talked down to in a condescending manner by a woman who's supposed to be, you know, their equal, you know. And
Yeah.
you got Aquaman sitting on the lasso of truth, sounding like he's like some 12-year-old, you know, prepubescent schoolboy who's got a crush on Wonder Woman. Really? You know? Sorry, I don't. You know, it's bullshit. You know, it's disrespectful to the audience. It's disrespectful for the characters. And what kind of role model are you setting up for young men? You know, this is the way. This is the way a man is, guys. You know, this is why we're getting all these soy boys, because these are the types of role models we're being spoon-fed on screen, and it's really annoying.
I'd also like to throw in this nitpicky little thing about for any of those of you who are into movie soundtracks. Danny Elfman really did a shitty job of inserting John Williams' Superman bits into.
Yeah, I thought that was off. And also, not only Superman, but he also put in Batman '89. I'm like, that's from Batman '89.
Yeah, you could at least make that out. The Superman stuff was so vague. I was like, why not
Okay.
just write something original? You know, you have to really listen for the Superman stuff.
I think it was an homage to both of the original characters. Well, to the Keaton character and to the Chris Reeves character. But yeah,
For all its faults, the use of John Williams' theme in Superman Returns was fantastic, even though it
Really?
wasn't a great movie. Oh yeah.
okay. I like Hans Zimmer's Superman theme for Man of Steel. I thought there was some epic music in that, and Hans Zimmer is really great with epic music. Steve Jablonsky is one of his former students, and he did all the Transformers movies. But
Wasn't a deal breaker, but I do also mention from time to time. Bonnie's heard this rant from me before. I'll try and be real quick with it. 1986, killing off of Optimus Prime, trashed the G1 franchise.
Damn straight.
I really am amazed that not one person at Lucasfilm looked back on that. And Luke's an even bigger character in the consciousness of fans. And thought maybe we should rethink this idea. Craig told us, and I can't remember what the source was, that George Lucas early on tried to tell Kasdan, don't kill him off. I'm warning you. You're going to regret it.
yeah. Well, the thing is that Rian Johnson hit the nail on the head when he talked about hubris. And that's exactly what is going on at Lucasfilm. There's a lot of hubris. There's a lot of arrogance going on that is setting them all up for a very big fall. They're going to look at things like Transformers and go, yeah, but that's Hasbro. That's Transformers. That's small time compared. This is Star Wars. We can't do wrong with Star Wars. Everyone loves Star Wars. And now they're paying the price. But now they're paying the price, you know.
One of the first things I said when I began arguing on message boards with people about this was, you could have had a version of Episode 8 that happened exactly the same way you saw it, except cut out that scene of Luke fading away. Just basically eliminate his death. Everything at the very end takes on a slightly different meaning. People still idolize him. You could have handled it several different ways in 9 from that point. But the point is, the backlash that's going on right now would not be happening.
Yeah.
Killing him
I would have
off
had him
made
turn
everything
around.
else taste killing him off made everything else on the plate taste bad.
I would have had him turn around and go into the cave or to the tree
Yeah.
and pull off one of the books and just start reading it.
Yep.
And just wait for Rey to come back with the Millennium Falcon, knowing that she's going to come back.
And not show the books on the Falcon.
Right. Right.
Yep.
I mean, that's the way I would have ended it, you know.
Because bringing him back for at least for a short time in 9 maybe gives him a little bit of a chance to continue his own redemption if you wanted to go that route with him, making him an old grumpy rogue.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to bring him back in 9, the way I would do it is I would have him on Tatooine and having a discussion with Obi-Wan in Obi-Wan's old dwelling, and, you know, just hashing it out. It's like, okay, look, this is what we've got right now. And Yoda, you know, pops in, and so he gets, and you can even have Anakin pop in and say, look, you know, let's get a powwow here. Let's get a meeting for what's going on, what we need to do, what we need to look at. And Anakin is warning him about, you know, the possibility of the dark side interfering, because he knows what it's like to have to deal with the dark side, you know. And you've got Yoda telling him to not underestimate Snoke, and you've got Obi-Wan saying, don't make the mistakes I made with Anakin with Rey, you know. So, you know, there's so many different directions that they can go with 9, but I know Bonnie doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't care.
Well, here's my thing about the whole thing. I don't give two shits about the new characters, but as far as Luke goes, if Luke actually is not dead in 9, and they go with something like he wasn't even really on Ahch-To, that it was a test kind of like what he had to go through, and Rey miserably failed that test, and you see him in a room with Yoda and Anakin and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and they're talking about how she failed the test miserably, and start it from there. I could probably deal with that. I probably could handle that. But the fact that they just killed him off, screw that. I have no respect for that whatsoever.
Well, the thing about what I see in TLJ and what I see in TFA is that this is a continuation of Luke's hero's journey. That Luke is the real hero here. Rey is nothing more than a messenger. She's the one that got the lightsaber to Luke, and this is why the lightsaber called out to her. Because it knew, or the Force knew, that she would be the one to bring it to Luke, you know. And the whole thing about Rey is like the unknowing mentor that kind of wakes Luke up from his little bubble that he's put himself into, you know, because he's gone into hiding. He's gone back into the mundane world, and he's tried to be normal, and it's not working. The galaxy's falling apart, and so now it's like, you know, you've got, I don't know if you guys know about the story of what the not the Odyssey but the Iliad, where it's like, you know, you've got the Trojan War, and you've got Agamemnon. He's looking for Ulysses or Odysseus, and Odysseus is going, oh no, I'm not spending 7 years of my life coming back home after going to a war that I don't really want to be in. So he's out there talking to himself, and he's plowing salt into his fields, pretending to be a madman. And Agamemnon's going, I see through this. I see what you're doing. You're still going to be my general, you know. And I can see the same thing happening with Luke. Like, no, I'm not doing this. I can see where it's going to go. I'm not going to go there. And Rey just going, it doesn't have to be that way, you know. You can still do this. You can still do that. So in my mind, it's still Luke. It's still the hero's journey for Luke. This is just like the next segment, the next chapter.
One of the leaked versions of the supposed TLJ script that turned out to be wrong was Rey coming back and doing exactly that, and Luke, you know, refusing it first, but then saying to her, you know, my master wouldn't join me when I needed help, so I'm going with you. So he was going to leave the planet with her.
Here's the real thing that gets to me is that me and my mom and my dad had a bond over Star Wars growing up, especially me and my dad. That got me on the track of stuff like Star Trek and Stargate and Battlestar Galactica and things like that, with me and my dad having time together to watch it. When my mom and dad sat down to watch TFA and TLJ, my mom and dad couldn't even stomach the first 5 minutes of TLJ. They begged me to shut it off. They're like, that's not Star Wars. I'm like, you haven't even got to the best part yet. My mom goes, what's that? I said, Luke gets killed at the end of the movie by force projecting himself. She said, burn it. Burn it. And I'm like, holy shit. And I mean,
that's hardcore.
Yeah. And my kids, 3 out of my 4 kids love Star Wars. And my younger 2 sat down with me to watch it. And they're like, what the hell is this? I said, it's Star Wars. They said, no, it ain't. This ain't Star Wars. This is a pile of crap, Mom. Burn it. Yeah. The only movie that Disney has done that my parents and my kids will accept, including me, is Rogue One.
Oh yeah, Rogue One was wow.
I loved Rogue One.
I had the same bond with my family now. My dad and I watched Rogue One together last year. He fucking loved it until the very end when it got to the. Some people react weird to the CGI Leia. His was kind of bad. He was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!"
I didn't think it was all that bad.
Most of us don't, but some people, every once in a while, I'll come across someone who reacts weird to it.
Tarkin got a lot of flack too, and I was looking for flaws with Tarkin, and I was like, "It's not that bad."
Tarkin isn't that bad to me either.
It wasn't that bad, but for me, seeing it and knowing the original movies, I'm like, you can tell that's not the real character.
But you had to have it.
But you
had to have those.
You had to have it. Yes, you had to have it, and you appreciate the care that went into it.
Yeah.
You know, this is ILM doing like groundbreaking stuff, and the family had to give permission, and then they had to get a guy to do the voice that sounded convincingly enough like Peter Cushing.
Oh, the guy that played the part for Tarkin, he was actually the Dark Wizard that headed up the Ministry of Magic in Harry Potter. Oh, he was the one that was teamed up with Voldemort. So you'll see him. He's the new Minister of Magic in the Harry Potter, the last 2 Harry Potter movies. When they kill off, oh God, what's his name? He's a great British actor, and he was like the interim. Can't remember his name, but yeah, it was that guy. And when I saw that. When they showed the guy that played Tarkin and this actor side by side, it was like, wow, that's really close. And he even got his mannerisms down. And I guess he was also really good at like mimicking his voice.
The bad part of Last Jedi for me was going into the theater with a group of people that I knew were going to like it no matter what. And I went in knowing full well what was going to happen in the movie.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Coming out of that, they were so just happy and chatting about it. And I'm like, oh, God.
Ew.
I can't put on a stomach for my friends. I can't. I just kind of left that night, and they were checking on me after. I was like, are you all right? Of course, I lied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. The same thing kind of happened to me, but I was expecting a great movie because I had watched the trailers, and I saw the trailers. I'm like, oh my God, this is epic. This is going to be so amazing. And I was still excited about TFA, to be honest. My wife and I think we went back and saw it like 5 or 6 times in theaters. And we only saw The Last Jedi once. That's it. Just once.
Well, that's how the TFA made that over $2 billion because people went and saw it more than once. The Last Jedi, not so much.
Yeah, its second week, I think its sales were cut in half.
Yep.
And
the only reason the tickets were bought in the first place was you had a bunch of fans who were buying on faith.
Yeah.
Including myself.
Yeah, I buy him a movie at a time.
Okay, so guys, really quick, I'm going to read this, and then we're going to give everybody a chance to shout out your channel and what you guys do on your channels. Zoogie says, I would go back to the Temple of Doom set and take KK out while she was just a dancer extra for the Hong Kong scene. Take out the people before it starts. Then I would go back to right before GL makes the prequels, show him what he did, show him all the fan backlash, and show him what he did to his IP, how evil the mouse is, and why KK had to die.
He would still do it. George Lucas would still do it because no one can tell him anything. That's the problem with George.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think if he knew then about what's going on, what he knows now, he would not have put her in charge when he sold it over.
Oh, I agree with that. But
It
he
definitely would have
would
been
have still done the
somebody
prequels. He
Oh, I'm
wouldn't change
sure.
a thing about the prequels.
I'm sure, but I don't think he would have sold this IP with KK in charge.
Well, the
it's funny
reason
when
why
you-
he sold the IP is because of the fan backlash. I just get such a strong sense from George
Yeah,
because
he-
this just seems something that he would do.
He was
Just out of
very
spite.
bitter at the end because of the prequel backlash. He was very bitter.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna let y'all shout out your channels and everything. It's almost 1 o'clock here, so we're gonna end this for tonight. But I would gladly have all of you on the show again. I do my shows in the morning. I do gaming, and at night I do the live stream with the guests. So, and it's always at 10:30, except for once Craig starts going live streams again. Then Monday and Thursday I will be on his channel. So those will be only 2 nights out of the week I don't live stream.
And we know for sure that's not going to be this week. So
Right. I'll let everybody know ahead of time when that's going to be. And he'll probably start asking you guys to come on his show, which will be awesome.
Cool beans. All right, so I guess I'll go first then.
Okay.
Well, everybody, my name is Majanai. Like I said earlier, I started my channel out as a music channel, but right now I just basically do pop culture. I do lean a lot on Star Wars, but I do talk about gaming, anime, stuff like that. Things that I really like. I like to talk about things that I like because it makes things interesting. So, come check me out.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, well, I'll go. My name is Roger. I'm the Iron Wolf 1970. My YouTube channel is Quentin Lars, and it's mostly about meditation, energy work, stuff that you could only learn from a Jedi. My Twitter handle is Roger Larson 1970. That's my fun site. I just chill with my friends. We geek out about Star Wars, Star Trek, you name it. I put up my artwork on there. I've done the avatars for a couple of my buddies. And yeah, it's just a fun site. You can always, hit me up and we can have a good conversation. And I'm also on the Senate live stream with Sith Kryptonian every Friday night. So hope to see you there or somewhere. And I also want to thank Bonnie for having me on the live stream. I appreciate the invite. And everybody that's on the panel, they've been great. You guys are awesome.
I had the rest of the Senate on here, so I needed to get you on too.
I am going to yield my time because these nice people in the chat know who I am to offer a friendly suggestion to our 2 new guests to please, if you can, if you have the access, put your channel in the chat so everybody can link to it and give you a sub.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I can do it on my phone, but I'll try it.
If you can't, do it in the Hangout chat, and I will transplant the link to the main chat.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably have you guys all on again with a bunch of other guests. I like having tons of guests so everybody has a chance to put their information out there and everything. So you guys all know gaming live streams, there's no time set on them, but the rest of the time, 10:30 every night, same time, same channel. So we will see you guys tomorrow.